Okay. These communities in the world are just naturally appearing and taking birth. And it is the beautiful hearts and the kind nature of the human spirit that is creating this huge space where people can actually share their unconditional love with one another and connect on a deeper level. So that's why I thought, why not discuss what was the key component of this unconditional love? So just briefly, I would like to share with you this meditation that I've been having about this community that is taking birth from this space of unconditional love. So, there is conditional and unconditional. There is two different areas of discussion. So my realization is that in the material world, the soul who resides within the body, or us, we living beings, consciousness within this body, we are starving inside and we are very hungry inside, so much so that it almost feels like it is dying. That is something I felt very strongly. And I was wondering, why is this? Because the soul, when it comes with matter, matter means that which does not have life. So that's what matter means, that which does not have consciousness. So when consciousness comes in contact with matter, that which does not have consciousness, there is no compatibility. And so therefore, consciousness starts to feel dissatisfied and incomplete, and something inside feels like we want something more. And this is what happens in the material world. We try to connect with matter in every possible way as the means of our deepest connection. But matter cannot give us the depth because matter is not conscious. For example, we buy gadgets, we buy things with the hope that we will be happy. We buy dresses, we buy particular type of cars, and we develop relationships based on material calculations. Is she pretty enough? Is she smart enough? Is he educated enough? All those equations that goes into the relationships, then those relationships end up being not so satisfying. And it gives very flickering satisfaction. So this is something very deeply ingrained in the wisdom text, that it explains that only when the spirit connects to the spirit can there be an exchange of love. Can there be an exchange of consciousness that is divine? So this is what unconditional love is. A connection of consciousness of that is pure, and matter is not in the equation. That means I love Nild not for how handsome he is or what he has to offer me, but because of the pure consciousness that he is. Does that make sense? So this is what this unconditional love is. So this practice of bhakti that we do, which is the ocean of emotion with devotion to oneself and one's relationship with the divine. And this is what bhakti is. So bhakti, it guides us. That means it guides the emotions of the heart to the very core of our existence, to the very depths of our existence. And so we have to keep in mind that all emotions that arise from the five sensory faculties, that means when we see someone, we feel something. So that sensory faculty, we looked at someone and we like the way they look, and so I feel something. Or when we touch someone, we like the way that touch feels, or we hear something. All of these sensory faculties that we connect with the world with are insufficient for the consciousness, for the conscious being that we are, to experience unconditional love. Unconditional love has to go beyond the perception of the five sensory faculties. And it's interesting because our whole experience in this world, it is through the senses. We see with the senses, we smell, we touch, we taste, we hear. It's all happening with the senses. And so therefore, it creates an impediment to experiencing unconditional love. Because that is very deep and it requires something beyond the senses, something more transcendental to the senses. So this is my first realization. And how our sensory faculties have a very unique way we perceive. When we see something, we create an emotion. It's both vertical and horizontal. Unconditional love is both vertical and horizontal. So how does that work? That means when we interact with the world, there is an emotion. There is a desire, there is an attachment that is created. And that attachment that is created in the contact and association with something, it builds and breeds a certain emotion. So now, if we are selective in our relationship with the world, that means we connect ourselves to people with higher consciousness, higher frequencies, what happens is that their frequency, their experience, then becomes part of our experience. That means their emotion of love, of compassion, and whatever their higher frequency of emotions are, we naturally also become infected with that emotion. You see, it's not just you see something and you build an emotion, but you're seeing someone and it's also helping you go up. So this almost like a triangular approach to cultivating this emotion of bhakti in the heart. And so this is what unconditional love is. That it is derived through experience that is beyond the senses, beyond the mind, beyond the intelligence. So now in this world, where can we find this and how to experience this unconditional love? So this emotion of bhakti, this unconditional love, it is not just a feeling, but it is something that we actually consciously have to choose. For example, you want to love someone. It is not that you just feel the love, but you also have to choose to love someone. So it's the feeling that is going to come, that is going to come based on your association with matter or with whoever and whatever in this world. But then we also have to consciously choose that emotion. It is an effort that we have to make. So, in other words, for example, if you are uh, in a situation and you want to get yourself out of a space, then you have to surround yourself with people that are out of that space into a higher space, and then you automatically get lifted off. So again, this Sangha is a very, very key component of experiencing unconditional love. I know yesterday there was a nice, every Friday now they have a program in Eindhoven for the Sangha, and I was told, Linda shared a message saying that she's still high from it. She's feeling the highs of being in a higher consciousness because everybody was high. And I know that Keshavi also had messaged me saying that there was a program in her house in Connecticut, and people in Connecticut were also high. She was still high from it. So after 12 hours, that you can still feel the palpable taste of what is an inkling or a glimpse of what that pure unconditional love is. So, this unconditional love is also primarily coming from a divine source. We have to keep that in mind. The more we're connected to the divine, the deeper that emotion of unconditional love is felt. How does it work? A bird goes and eats the grains. Oh yeah, Keshavi told me she has bird feeders. So the bird knows that if the bird goes to the feeder, their food is provided for. But who is actually providing the food? Keshavi is spending money to provide and feed all the inhabitants around her house. So she is providing the seeds for the birds. And then if you look more carefully, then Keshavi is also being provided for. In this way, you will notice that this consciousness of experiencing unconditional love is an acknowledgement that everything in this world is provided for us. That is a very important first principle of acknowledgement, that everything in this world is provided for us somehow or through someone. It is not simply that you made an effort and it just happened to the food just happened to fall in front of you, that you made no effort. There's a little effort that you make because you have to go to the bird feeder. But somehow there is a divine arrangement where food is provided for you. And that providing of the food is provided by the divine creation of our Creator. And so that's a very important principle to understand. So in the second stage of experiencing unconditional love is the conscious understanding of how that principle works. For example, a mother feeds the baby. Some of you are mothers, you know. You feed the baby. Does the baby acknowledge and understand what is truly happening? When the baby is cold and you put a blanket on the baby and you make sure you carry warm clothes for the baby, does the baby fully understand what is happening? The baby understands that everything is taken care of. Whenever the baby is hungry, the food is there. Whenever the baby is cold, there's clothing to make sure the baby is properly covered. So this is what's happening throughout our lives. And at some point, when the baby starts to grow up and experiences and gains knowledge through association and through environment, then the baby finally realizes, oh, my mother is providing the food. The mother is providing the shelter and is providing warmth. So this is the second level of realizing that this unconditional love, because it requires uh, an emotion that is deeper than just an individual experience. It requires an acknowledgement of something that is beyond our control, something that is given to us, even apparent without us doing anything for it. For example, the sun is shining. What have we done to receive the light from the sun? Have we done anything? There is no effort that we have made. When we are breathing, what have we done to get this free oxygen? You go to any hospital, they will send you a bill. But it is being given to us, and the principle is there is no consideration of your gender, of your geography, of your identity. It is just there, always there for you. The only time that it does not exist for us is when we close our eyes, when we go into a bunker, then we may not be able to see the beautiful sun. So it is an active choice of us rejecting and not acknowledging the beautiful radiant sun that comes and the oxygen that is provided for us. So it takes a lot of effort to not experience unconditional love, because unconditional love is ever existing from God. And that's the beauty of it, that it is purely unconditional. Some people say, no, God is partial. And some people say God or divine is impartial. So there's a lot of debates on people. You know, people that serve, only those that worship Jesus, only they make it to the heavens and no one else makes it. So you'll hear some things like that, that only those that worship. No, it's actually for everyone. That love of God, divine love, is for everyone to experience. Because God is not partial and He's not impartial, but He's also this principle of reciprocal. The deeper we reciprocate with the gifts that God has given us, the deeper the feeling of unconditional love can be felt in our heart. So it has to be, impartiality is there, just like the sun is providing, but it's something more. It's that reciprocal nature when we acknowledge the beautiful gift that God has provided for us. And we do something to actively share that love with others. This is what reciprocal comes in. If you have a treasure that your Father has given you and you keep it to yourself, are you reciprocating with your Father's love? And that reciprocal comes in when you take that Father's love and you share it with the siblings. And this is where the third level of experiencing unconditional love comes in. Through sharing that unconditional love, you are experiencing even deeper unconditional love. And that emotion of pure unconditional love, when you share with others, is simply not something you explain with words, but it is experienced in the heart. And that is beyond the senses. So that love that is deeply experienced in sharing. You may notice when you're in a kirtan or when you're serving. I know in Connecticut, they go out every weekend. In Atlanta, we go out every day. What is the beauty of it? Because when you go out to serve, there is something that happens inside and is unexplainable. It is something that you experience, this love, and you're wondering where is it even coming from? So the key to experiencing unconditional love is to share the gifts that you have with others. This is the secret. Now I want to share a small story. Oh, I think let's see if anybody has any questions before I tell you a story. Yes, Jules. We cannot hear you, Jules. No, you're on mute. I'm not able to hear you. Maybe I'll tell the story and you can figure out how to unmute. What do you think? Is that a good idea? Keshav is wondering, he's wondering if you can unmute him. Is it possible?
Yes. Yeah.
There you are, Jules.
Yeah, I have a question. Although English is not my mother tongue, I'm going to try to express myself in English, but I wrote some parts of your what you're saying. I wrote it down, and you advise to connect with people with higher frequency. Yeah, for instance, during a sangha. Does that also mean that it's not so easy to feel unconditional love for people with lower frequencies, or is that not what you want to say?
Very beautiful question. So there is a three-tier relationship, uh, metric, measure. One is understanding that in our relationships, we have something called a guide who guides us, and something called a peer, our equals, and a dependent. These are the three dimensions of how we interact with the world. So peer is people, and then there is a guide, and there's someone who is dependent on us. And you'll find that you have all of these three. And there's a proportion on how we should have this. Primarily, our relationship in this world is with peers. We like people who are equals. But then it is also good to have people in this world that are our teachers, that can help us when we need some guidance by asking questions and navigate the journey of struggles to the heart. Journey to the heart is not easy. It is a struggle, but someone has to guide us through that. So that is one level, huh? The guide, the peer, and then dependent. In this case, to feel unconditional love is to share that love with someone who is dependent on you. You'll be surprised. We all have someone that looks up to us. for something. They're depending on something from us. And to share that love with them, then you start to see a whole experience of unconditional love that you'll feel deep in yourself. So, can you feel it? Yes, you can feel it in all dimensions, especially the Sangha. The Sangha is a very unique uh, experience because on the Sangha, all our consciousness, we all become this unified consciousness. And that's what makes it very powerful. Every time we want to recharge our consciousness, bring it to a higher frequency, you bring it to a Sangha. For example, we're going to India. Why is it that we're going in a group? Anyone can fly to India whenever they want, however they want, there's no problems. Traveling to India with your family and friends will be a huge difference in experience that you will have when you travel with a Sangha. Because we are these walking conscious beings connecting deeper throughout the whole process. And we fortify ourselves through this Sangha. And there is no bad days. If one person has a bad day, then there's 50 people to lift them up. So how are you going to have a bad day? And this is why Sangha is so critical. And I always remind everyone, Keshavi sends reminders every week. There's hundreds and hundreds of people who get the email reminders and messages on WhatsApp. Why is it that there is only 50 or 40, 30 of us? I'm not sure how many. Why? Because it's difficult to make the commitment to come to a Sangha. And once we come to a Sangha, once we make the habit of being in a Sangha, then you realize that you're never alone, that you have a community that is covering you with a blanket of unconditional love. And that's why the Sanghas are very, very important. Beautiful question though, Jules. I want to share a small story. The story of a beautiful temple in a place called Puri in the Indian Ocean, on the bank of the Indian Ocean. There is a temple that's, they say it's thousands of years old. And the ocean has a unique relationship with the temple energy. And there are beautiful deities of Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. Their eyes are very, very big and they have big, beautiful smiles. Those are the depiction of what deities of love looks like. It's very beautiful. So, in that temple, you will notice that this beautiful deity forms of the divine has no uh, eyelashes and have no eyelids. Very interesting. And when we study deep into the yoga text, they actually explain the history of this temple and the principle of this temple. This is a temple where people go to experience unconditional love. And how does that even work? They say that these deities, they never blink an eye to share love with you. Imagine that. They never blink an eye. When you blink an eye, what's happening is that for a blink of an eye, you're not sharing the love with someone else. But these deities don't have eyelids, so they're always keeping their eyes open 24/7, 365. And there is thousands and thousands of people that go into this temple from 4:30 a.m. in the morning. That's insane when you think about it. And that is a depiction of what unconditional love is. So we human beings, unfortunately or fortunately, we have eyelids. There are some moments of our life when the eye blinks in between that we're not able to give that unconditional love 24/7, 365. And that's what makes the human being a little different than God. That God can love us 24/7, 365, unconditionally. And we are not fully capable of doing that yet. And in this temple, I remember going, it's amazing because it's so crowded. There's lines of thousands and thousands of people, and their excitement. You basically stand in a line and you're picked off your feet by the sheer spiritual excitement and emotions of these people to see Jagannath. That you're literally picked off your feet and you're placed in front of him, and then you're picked off and taken out of the temple, because the people, they only get to see him for a moment, because everybody wants to be experiencing that unconditional love. This is a temple that is physically present. And in the Ramayana, there is beautiful stories of Ram, who we know as the embodiment of love, as he came in a different age. And he also, when you read the Ramayana, you see that he goes to Lanka to bring back his wife that was kidnapped by this evil king. And this evil king held Ram's wife captive in the forest, but he knew so well that to do anything to her without her consent would cause his demise. All his spiritual piety will completely go down the drains, and he would immediately be vanquished. So he did not lay his hands on her. His own brother protested by saying, "How can you do this, my dear brother? How can you take the wife of someone else and hold them captive against their wishes?" And he immediately banished his brother. He says, "Get out of my kingdom. I want you to leave right now." And he threw him out. And this brother of Ravana, this evil king, he had gone around and taken shelter of Ram. And he says, "My dear Ram, I would like to be under
Did
your
we
shelter."
lose sound?
Are you all able to hear me? Yes, okay. So he took shelter of Ram. And interestingly, there was a big war that took place. I'm fast forwarding in the story. There's a big war that takes place between Ram, who has an army of monkeys that helped him to build a bridge to go to Lanka, and Ravana with his army of evil soldiers. There was a major battle that happens. So in that battle, all the monkeys that left their bodies due to this fight, protecting Ram, protecting love personified. What did Ram do? Every monkey that left their bodies, he picked them up and he personally attended to each and every one of their final rites and their funerals, and to give them the best loving farewell possible. And Ravana, on the other hand, his soldiers died. He said, "I don't want to see their face. They failed me," and just, cast them aside, these dead soldiers. So, brother of that evil king, he approached Ram. He says, "Ram, This is what's happening on the other side. And this is what you're doing. And when Ram heard that these human beings were treated like that, he also wanted to make sure that their ancestors or their souls would also experience love. So he would also do spiritual rituals for their souls. People that want to kill you, imagine that. You are wishing and doing things for their soul benefit, for the benefit of their soul. This is how unconditional love is. Unconditional love is to love the one that wishes your demise. And that unconditional love is only accessible when we are deeply connected on that supreme consciousness level, not on the level of consciousness of the senses and the mind and the intelligence. You simply see the beautiful soul that can do no wrong, that is not tainted by any material desires, that has nothing but purity and pure source and pure love and pure compassion. And this is what Ram is showing, what unconditional love is. Unconditional love is very deep. And we can all access that. We can all get a glimpse of it. But the day we dedicate our lives to cultivate this deep unconditional love with our deep practice of daily sadhana, daily spiritual practices, you will start to experience unconditional love inside of you. And then when you share that unconditional love with others, then that unconditional love is even more amplified in our experience. So this is the key, my dear beautiful souls, that we have to experience unconditional love through our practice of sadhana and share that unconditional love with others. And then that deepens the infinite unconditional love that God provides for all of us. So thank you so much for joining us. We may have, yes, we have 7 minutes. If there's any questions or you'd like to add anything or you'd like to subtract anything. Or any questions? Okay, this is great. Is silence means you may have understood everything, or maybe you have not understood anything, or somewhere in between. Oh, yes, Nick. Please share with us. Can someone unmute Nick, please?
Yeah, I think it works. I just want to add something what was coming up. We met recently in the Netherlands at the library when Linda organized an amazing evening.
Yes.
Uh, and the thing um, what reminds me after that moment that it um, was the first time in a long time that I experienced so much. Like I felt like I was a child again, the happiness and the dancing and the singing and the um so it was very pure and I was missing that for months and months. So with just going to a kirtan, that gave me so much energy and so much like fully love, and I'm sad that I didn't join yesterday. I couldn't make it, but that was for me experiencing that feeling was like a huge eye opener again. That's the direction where I want to go and where I want to be. So I'm really happy that I can join this community. So just wanted to share that again. That it was so beautiful.
I just remember your face dancing. I felt like you were levitating the whole time, and you were in a different world. So thank you for sharing that, Nick.
Yeah, and I would love to join one day the journey to India. I cannot make it now, but I hopefully next year it would be amazing.
Yes, absolutely. Every year I do these trips, and if you miss 1 year, you can come next year. You have 1 year to prepare. And I also recommend that you take because this is a journey of the heart by moving the obstacles to the heart. And so if anyone that comes to India, I recommend plan to come every year. Once
Mm.
a year is like it's called the heart charge, where we charge our hearts to a deeper vibration of frequency that we can live from. So yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Nick. Okay, Keshavi, any announcements, housekeeping before we leave?
I think you have a retreat next weekend, right? I thought it was this weekend. I was corrected last night.
Yes, I am actually in the same place where we're going to do our next retreat. I came here to do some presentations, but it's someone else's retreat. I'm simply doing some presentations. So it's not something that I'm doing fully 100%. But next week, we'll have a lot of fun because I think Patricia is coming, if I'm correct. Yeah. Yeah, Maggie is coming too. This is a place called New Vrindavan. They have created here. It's in West Virginia mountains. They have beautiful swans. So for those of you who don't know what swans look like, I often talk about stories of swans. You can see they have swans and they have little itty bitty baby swans too. So it's really cute. They go around drinking the nectar. And beautiful place, beautiful place. So that's coming weekend. So for those of you who are close to Virginia, you should think about joining us. Barbara, if you're close by, it'll be great to have you with us. We're in Moundsville, West Virginia, close to Wheeling.
I don't know if she's still there, but she told me she's 4 hours away.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a long drive. And then we're going to India, and I am so excited to be going to India and being with all of you and bathing in the Ganga and dancing in the Ganga and offering aartis. So please keep in mind, 2025 India, the doors will open for holding your spot after the India retreat this year. Okay, any other announcements?
Nope, I can't think of anything.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, all of you beautiful souls. Please, the secret, share your love in your heart with others. Keep vibrating, keep sharing so you can experience more. Don't be stingy, don't hoard it. Just share that love. Okay. Namaste, beautiful souls.
Namaste.
Have a wonderful
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste. Hare Krishna.